Hello everyone, welcome to Everything Arsenal, and this is the latest transfer talk video. We are back again with Cossy. Absolutely fantastic, Cossy. How are you?
I'm okay, bro. How are you doing?
I'm doing absolutely great. The transfer window is just a couple of weeks. It's being opened on the same day as the Euros starting. So we're expecting Arsenal to be very, very busy this transfer window. A lot of outgoings, a lot of incomings. We've been linked to a lot of players. A lot of players have been linked to the move away to Arsenal. So we're going to be discussing that. The latest on Ramsdale, the latest on players like Tierney, Albert Sambi, Lokonga, Smith Rowe, our striker situation, and also make sure to check out Cause's channel. We'll discuss the striker situation over there, and the latest on players like Marcus Rashford. What are our thoughts on those? So let's get started with Aaron Ramsdale. Now, I think if you ask the Arsenal fan base right now, do you want Ramsdale to stay or leave? I think many will say to stay. Personally, for me, I feel like we don't really need a goalkeeper, don't really need a defender. All we need is to sort out our midfield and our forward positions and keep our goalkeeper. I'm happy to keep Zinchenko. I'm happy to keep all of those players. But we all know if you want to raise money for other transfers, Ramsdale is a very, very good goalkeeper. I remember going on TV a couple of seasons ago and I said Ramsdale is better than Alisson, and I said it with chest, because he was making incredible saves. I felt like, hey, this guy's not making too many mistakes. If he is making mistakes, Pickford is making mistakes as well. Alisson is making mistakes. Ederson is making mistakes. He's a very good goalkeeper. So I think he deserves to have to be a first choice goalkeeper, and I think he deserves to play every single day. And I think he deserves to, if he does go, he deserves to get enough money for him. So it has just been reported a couple of hours ago that Arsenal want as much as 30 million for Aaron Ramsdale. First, my question for Cossy is, if he had the choice to keep Ramsdale and he was like, listen, I'm going to let you, Cossy, the manager, choose for me. Should I stay? Should I leave? What would you promise him? Because I did hear you made a very good point on players not getting enough game time because they are usually out of the Carabao Cup and FA Cup. Now, I do understand that. I do understand that from the Arsenal fan base. To some point, because in 4 of those games we've been eliminated twice by Liverpool and twice by Man City. Those are teams that can beat you, but obviously getting eliminated by Nottingham, Southampton, and all these guys is a bit damaging. So would you keep Ramsdale or let him go and get a second choice goalkeeper if it was your choice?
If it's my choice and he wants to stay, it's a no-brainer, Glenn. It's a no-brainer. Think about this. You have 8 games now in the UEFA Champions League group stages, from 6 to 8. That's 2 more games. You have the Carabao Cup and you have the FA Cup as well. How many times have we seen Ortega this season? Like, so many times. I'm used to Ortega as if he's Man City's number 1. Yes, at times he's coming because of Ederson and is injured and maybe unavailable. But we are so used to Ortega because Ortega's played so many minutes. I think that's what Mikel has got to understand. For me, it's a no-brainer with Aaron Ramsdale. You've got to keep him if he wants to stay, and you've got to play him. He's got to play a certain part, in certain games. He's got to play a certain part in certain competitions. I don't have a problem with Mikel Arteta deciding to play David Raya in the finals of the FA Cup or in the finals of the Carabao Cup, because managers do that. They bring out their best 11 in the advanced stages of knockout competitions, semi-finals, finals. It happens. But for me, even if Ramsdale goes and another goalkeeper comes in, let's say you sign Wojciech Szczesny, maybe you sign David De Gea, there is no goalkeeper who is going to say, I am here to get 0 minutes. They know that they're going to come in to pick up the scraps. They're going to come in to pick up the fringe minutes that your number 1 goalkeeper and your number 1 starters are not actually getting. It's the reason as to why many players today are considered sellable, and they're considered touchable in this Arsenal squad. You look at Man City right now. If Ortega really wants to stay, right, and City want him to stay, Ortega will keep his place. They will keep him. You look at that back line. They have so many defenders. Walker is there, Ake is there, Akanji is there, but none of them is desperate to live for game time. All of them feel like, well, play 20 plus games, right? Just like the other guy. So for me, Ramsdale is a no-brainer. If I'm the manager and I talk to him and he explained he understands my theory of him playing in the other competitions and maybe getting 2 games in the preliminary round in the Champions League, it's a no-brainer. You keep him. Quality goalkeeper, one of the best number 2s you can have in the world. And for me, If us, it's not about goalkeepers playing from the back. One of the best number ones again in the Premier League you can have as well.
Yeah. So reports have just come out from Craig Hope of the Daily Mail saying Arsenal goalkeeper Aaron Ramsdale is on the list of targets for Newcastle, but at present sources say the asking price is too high. The fee being mooted is at least 30 million. So the other part of that, if Ramsdale said, okay, Cossy, I need to leave. I'm interested in going to Newcastle. How much would you ask for him? Because we signed him for around 30 million. And, we've always struggled to get money for our players. I still remember, I still feel like Leno's a good goalkeeper. And there's a time Fulham were offering something stupid like 2 million, 2 million, 3 million.
Don't talk about it.
Absolutely crazy. Even
I was absolutely, that is one of the ways, and that's one of the times I was ashamed of this Arsenal team. Like, ban Leno. Leno. You know how many teams, Leno could start for in the Premier League. Just look at that Premier League table. We don't even need to go to them. The bottom 10, all of them, Leno starts there. All of them. And then when you work your table, when you work your way slowly up the table, right? You could exclude Brighton because they need a ball-playing goalkeeper and they have 2 quality ball-playing goalkeepers. But look at Chelsea. You can you tell me that Chelsea have a better goalkeeper than Ban Leno right now? They don't. So. Can you tell me that Tottenham have a better goalkeeper than Ban Leno?
West Ham as well.
West Ham as well. So for me, that was embarrassing. And Glen, I am absolutely I'm dejected when people say Ramsdale is less than 30 million pounds. By then, not euros. I'm talking about pounds. When they say he's less than 30 million euros, what is the justification? What is the justification that one of the best goalkeepers last year, right? Yes, he's dropped to Raya this year. And I don't think that has been typically because he's a bad goalkeeper. That is because the manager has decided that there's some qualities, specific qualities he wants in a new goalkeeper, and Ramsdale doesn't have them, right? But I think Ramsdale is one of the goalkeepers that I would strongly say, and I'll put my right there and say, cut it off. He starts for 15 teams in the last Premier League season. 15 teams in the last Premier League season. He starts. He's not the worst goalkeeper with his feet. We all we've got to know that. He's not the worst. Yes, he's made some mistakes. He's been feeble, and maybe not as confident as Raya, Jason Steele, or Alisson, or even Ederson. But he's not the worst goalkeeper with his feet. So for me, it is disrespectful. Like, people are really disrespecting the value of Aaron Ramsdale. And I really pray that he gets a good club, a good project like Newcastle, where he can go on to prove to people that he's such a quality goalkeeper. Because what is less than 30 million for Aaron Ramsdale? I wouldn't even consider it. I've said this before and I'll say it again. It is 35 for me to 40. For Aaron Ramsdale, it's 35 to 40. Why? He's 25. That is not the prime of goalkeepers. The prime age for goalkeepers is 28, 29, right?
Yeah.
So he's just entering his prime. He has proven that he can keep the balls out of the back of his net. That is second, and he is the future of England. Unless we get an academy prospect from the academies around, I don't think Trafford is better than him. I don't think Dean Henderson is better than him, and all these other young goalkeepers that they're decorating for us. They are not better than him, right? He's just had a season where the manager has said you've got to go to the side, right?
Yeah.
And for me, that is it. So Glen, 30 million. If we are getting what we spent on him, maybe, that's okay. But anything below what we spent on him, it will be a disgrace. A disgrace.
I absolutely agree. I think you've made a good point. Ramsdale was not dropped by Arsenal because he's a terrible goalkeeper.
No.
It's just because the style that we play is different. And the style that we play, I don't think there's too many teams in the Premier League that play that. Maybe Man City, maybe Brighton, playing out from the back, pressing and all that. Maybe 3-4 teams at most. The other 16, 15 teams would want a goalkeeper like Ramsdale who can save shots. If a team is a team like Brentford, before we signed Raya, he had to make like 150 saves in a season or something like that. If Ramsdale was playing like for Burnley, a team conceding a lot of chances, I think he would save a lot of shots. I think he's a very good shot stopper. I did say in terms of shot stopping. Now, I did say he was better than Alisson at that time, but not in terms of general as a goalkeeper. I did make it specific. In terms of shot stopping, I think he could beat them. Now, obviously, Alisson has made some incredible saves over the last couple of years, but he's absolutely incredible. To get something, even Emi Martinez, I mean, at those goalkeepers, you could have easily gotten 50 million for Emi Martinez, even 30 million for Bernd Leno, and the same for at least we need to get the same money that we paid for Aaron Ramsdale. I think he's a very good goalkeeper. Let's not forget, last season he was in the team of the season, and there was a reason. I was in the same league as Ederson, the same league as Alisson. He still won goalkeeper of the season. There's a couple of saves I remember from the top of the head, like against Leicester. There's a free kick, I think, from Madison.
James Person,
Yeah, and then there was a 4-2 that we won at Aston Villa, and then he made a save from Bailey that he hit the post as well. Those kind of saves. There's another one for Son, I think, again.
And Liverpool 2-2 at the Anfield.
Yeah, that was crazy. That was the game. Liverpool should have beat us in that game. We were so lucky in that game. It would have been a game over. We made so many saves. But if you consider players like Robert Sanchez going to Chelsea for 25 million from Brighton, I think Ramsdale is a better goalkeeper than Sanchez. We should be getting the same money, even if they sit on the bench. But I would keep him as well. I would promise him, listen, hopefully next season we go further in the FA Cup, you're going to get a lot of game time, Carabao Cup. And you're still young. So even if you get 10, 15 games. I know a goalkeeper like that would want 40 games to be the first choice goalkeeper at England. But as I said, you're still young. You can still go to the next World Cup. You can still go to, the next Euros. You still have a lot of competitions to go. So I think 30 million is fair enough. Now, do you think Newcastle are going to pay that?
I'm not really sure what their budget is, because they have financial problems. And that is going to be very restricting, because the top candidate that would be willing to spend that much, because again, you've got to look at the transfer motive. The transfer motive behind Newcastle is that the manager there has worked with Aaron Ramsdale, and that means that he understands him. That means that he wants a reunion, just like the goalkeeper Inaki Keina at Arsenal. He was dying to get David Raya, and Arsenal did whatever they could to get David Raya. We could have done a Mohamed Kudus deal, probably, right? But the motive was the goalkeeper said, that is the guy, that is the goalkeeper that is going to take us to the level. So the motive is very, very important. So Eddie Howe wanting him, that is very clear motive, and I think that will raise their stakes to spend about 30 million. But if they didn't have financial problems, right? And we are very unlucky. If the club that wanted him didn't have financial problems, we'll be looking at even in excess of 35 million euros, because it's the manager that wants him. He knows him, he understands him, he's worked with him, he knows his quality. So I would say I think Newcastle will be paying around 25 to 28 because of their financial situation, and they've got to work on other areas as well. Their squad is like on bare bones.
Now, they've not qualified for Europe. We'll talk about Bruno Guimaraes and Isaac situations on Cossy's channel later. But just to touch on it, would you be willing to use Ramsdale as part of the deals for Bruno Guimaraes or Isaac, or do you think you need to do them separately? If they say, listen, Bruno Guimaraes, 100 million, I know it's a release clause, but let's say he was being sold, they'd say 100 million. If you give us Ramsdale, we'll give him at 60 million. Would you be wanting that deal, keen on that deal?
Well, it depends on the negotiation. It depends, but I really think that I've done my research on Guimaraes, and I think he will fit in our Arsenal. He might fit in our Arsenal very well. So if they're saying we are topping up around maybe 45 to 55 million, I think that is a deal you do. I think it's a good deal. It's a very, very good deal. Obviously, we are giving them a homegrown player for a Brazilian one, but it's a deal I'd be happy to take, because it's about need. You satisfy my needs, I satisfy your needs. We need a defensive midfielder to replace the injury-prone Partey, and they need a goalkeeper to replace, maybe Pope, if he cannot stay fit for the next seasons and all. So I'll do the deal. I would really do the deal. I think it's a nice deal, especially, by the way, for Guimaraes. For Alexander Isak, I would want to wait and see what other clubs are offering for Ramsdale. But for Guimaraes, because I know there are not so many quality defensive midfielders that are that physical and that are that all round. I would listen to Newcastle if they proposed it.
Awesome. Now, Ramsdale is not the only player that will leave Arsenal. Kieran Tierney is back at Arsenal. He's now an Arsenal player once again. And we have this thing of the left-back situation to sort out. Now, we'll talk about Tierney and Zinchenko as well. Tierney is coming back at Arsenal. Now, the way we played at the end of last season with Kivio overlapping in those games against Sheffield and Burnley and Newcastle, Kivio's getting forward a lot. He wasn't even really playing. There's a time we played Kivio as an inverted fullback, I think against Fulham and a couple of other teams, and he was absolutely exposed. I mean, that game at the end of last year against Fulham, I think he was subbed off at halftime. But the moment you started playing him as an overlapping fullback, he started getting assists for the likes of McNeil and those guys. Tierney can do that. Tierney can play as an overlapping fullback, but the problems are injuries and all that. Now, again, if you are the manager, because I know Arteta probably, I mean, I would be very shocked if Arteta kept Tierney. Now, there's a time I also said I'd be very shocked if Arteta keeps Saliba, but he ended up being a player at Arsenal. Yeah, and he brought him back. So, do you think there's a place for Tierney in this team? Or let's say minus the injuries, if he comes back and he's fully fit and doesn't get any injury, do you think there's a space for him in this team, or do you think we are past that? Because I've also heard you saying a couple of times we are moving away from the Emre players and the Wenger players. If you are the manager, would you be tempted to keep Tierney?
You know, he's a traditional left back, and he gives us something that we do not have. I've seen Arsenal linked with Fadi Kadioglu, and when you think about Fadi Kadioglu, of course, he's more multifaceted. He's got a lot more to his game than Kieran Tierney. He can play as a winger, he can play as a midfielder, and all that kind of stuff. But does Kieran Tierney have something that Arsenal could benefit from in certain games that all these other players do not have? Definitely. Under Mikel Arteta, it's difficult for me to see him stay. Yeah. But if our manager and he's willing to share minutes with Julen Timber and to share minutes with maybe Takaro Tomiyasu, I would actually keep him. I've already said that with a player like Alexander Zinchenko, that is one player I can't touch. That is one player I really, really like. And many Arsenal fans actually, always get to me when they always tell me, Cossy, you are against this club by wanting to play Alexander Zinchenko in such and such a game. And I've always said defensively, he's got problems. But there are times when Arsenal don't have a lot of defensive work to do. So Kieran Tierney as well would be an asset in games where at times, you're going to have teams play centrally a lot of the time. You saw what Man United did with Man City and what Arsenal did with Man City. You just pack the middle. So that means that you've got to have a lot of quality in the wide areas for you to penetrate such a defensive block. I would maybe keep him in such games. I would also keep him for games that are kind of end to end, games where you have like Bournemouth. I would keep him for such games. But the thing is, we have so many left backs at this Arsenal team. We have so many players and he talked about it as a player, Kieran Tierney. He said, you look at the players ahead of me and you look at the players in that position, it's really, really hard and difficult for you to say you're going to come and, start over Timber, start over Tomiyasu, start over Kivio, and start over Alexander Zinchenko. So for me, the two priorities at left back right now are Julen Timber, who I think is going to play around 30 to 35 games next season. And then Alexander Zinchenko, who will come in at times as a midfielder, especially in games where Arsenal maybe 0-0 or trailing 1-0, 70 minutes in, come in to join the midfield. So I think those are the two priorities at left back. I see either of Tomiyasu or Kivio shifting into centre back or right back, and then one of them leaving. I see Kieran Tierney leaving. So I would want to keep him, but that means that you have to get rid of one, either Kivio or Takaro Tomiyasu, right? And like we're hearing, Mikel Arteta is big on another left-sided defender. Could be Joro Hato, who is a centre back. You could fit at left back. could be Fadi Kadioglu, who gives you that different kind of dimension. And Fadi Kadioglu coming in means that Kieran has got to go because he gives you that. And Alexander Zinchenko as well is going to have to leave because, again, Kadioglu gives you what Alexander Zinchenko gives you. So I think it's over. It's over for Kieran Tierney, honestly. He knows it.
How much money would you be looking for him?
Yeah, it's very difficult at the moment. I would have sold him like maybe 2 seasons ago. It's now very, very difficult for us to price him. I mean, he's been at Real Sociedad. He's had an okay season. He's suffered with some injuries. I think the best time for us to sell him was the time we prior to the arrival of Alexander Zinchenko. That was the time when Mikel Arteta had just come in. He was one of the key players, one of the key cogs in the machine. And so many clubs actually wanted him in Italy, in Turkey, and they were willing to splash some good money. Right now, I think we're going to be at the mercy of whoever comes in to buy him, right? Because they'll be like, listen, he's been out on loan. You don't even want him anyway. There are not so many clubs that want him at the moment. So if we go for something between 15 to 20 million, do you think that's too low? I think that's where we are. If we are lucky, it's going to be 20 million.
I think that's the amount of money we could get for, I think around that. We got him for around, was it 25 million or something?
25, yeah, 25.
25. So I think, I think even 20 million is a stretch because of the
it's
injuries.
A stretch. And there was a time, there was a time when where we would have got something like 22 to 25 before the arrival of Alexander Zinchenko, before Mikel Arteta reinvented the left back position.
Yeah. Let us know in the comment section. Would you guys be willing to keep Tierney, or you think you've moved on from that boat has sailed pretty much? Now, speaking of Zinchenko, now Zinchenko is a player that every time I talk about Zinchenko and Jesus, people attack you for talking about Partey. I get attacked for praising Zinchenko and Jesus. I'm like, I don't think Zinchenko is the worst player. Because I've seen Arsenal fans including them in these were flop signings. I'm like, no, they did very well in their first season. I think we were unlucky with Timber. I don't think Zinchenko was meant to play the games against Liverpool or Man City this season. He had to play because Timber was out and Tomiyasu was out, so we were forced to play him. I know he's not the best defensively. I also don't agree that he's a complete calamity like a Kolasinac back in the day or stuff, but he's not the best defensively. I would love to see him in midfield. He plays in midfield for his country. I would love to see him there, but in terms of the wages and in terms of getting a bit of money for these players, we can't keep everyone. These players, we have to say, okay, they are going to move on, and we can't do anything about it. But personally, for me, as I said, I want us to keep all our defenders. Obviously, sell Tierney, the ones who were here last season, the 7 of them. I'd like us to stay with them. And if everyone can stay fit, that would be great. You also kind of have to prepare for injuries if they happen or suspensions. We have to. But Zinchenko, personally, I would keep him. But do you think he's going to stay?
It's a difficult one. It's a difficult one that depends more on the player rather than the club. I think with Alexander Zinchenko, if offers come in and he's enticed, Arsenal will not stand in his way, because definitely one of the qualities that Mikel Arteta appreciates about him is inverting into the midfield. Mikel Arteta has just signed a 43 million euro centre back that plays at left back, inverts in midfield. Defensively, he's astute, he's quicker, he's smarter, and he is more physical. The only reason as to why we still have doubts whether Zinchenko will stay is because Julian Timber has been injured this season. If Timber had played the full length of the season, everyone would have just said, Alexander Zinchenko, it is over. And I think it's a deal that depends on the nature of the proposals. It's a deal that depends on whether the player wants to stay. I think it's one of those deals that if Alexander Zinchenko would love to stay another season, Arsenal will not force him out. But if Zinchenko says, I want to go to probably Galatasaray, or I see him at Galatasaray, I don't know why, I see him in Turkey, I don't know why. If a good offer comes in for him and he agrees personal terms, he will leave. Now, do I think a good offer is going to come in for him? Yes. I think there's so many clubs that are eyeing this Arsenal team. When you are developing as a team, there are going to be so many players that are good, but they cannot get into the starting 11. Tomiyasu, Kivio, Zinchenko, Emil Smith-Rowe, Fabio Vieira, all those players. So I think Zinchenko is now part of that thing. He's definitely going to get a team that will match his wages. It's about the project. If he feels that there's a project out there, maybe, and he feels he can be a starter, because when I look at him, he's a leader. His mentality is top notch. There's so many people who have told me, look at his attitude, and I'm like, this is one of the guys that has the winning mentality. He introduced the winning mentality at Arsenal. Don't even talk about him, in such a way. So I think if he gets to lead somewhere, he will take the opportunity, and I see him leave.
Interesting. For me, I'd keep all 7 defenders, just keep them consistent and keep them going. And I think if everyone is fit, obviously you have to expect injuries and stuff. But imagine in a Carabao Cup match where you can have Zinchenko on the left side, you have Tomiyasu on the right side, Kiv as a centre back, maybe the Ben White or Saliba in one of those games. Yeah. This is the first time in the 20 years of supporting Arsenal where we've had 7 good defenders. Even if people don't rate Zinchenko, we never had anywhere like this. There's a time Vermaelen and Koscielny were good. But if you look at the fullback,
and the rest of the team was dreadful.
You look at the bench, Giroud, Senderos, you're like, nah. There's a time we had Matsaka and Koscielny playing well, but we aren't really sure about the left back. Bellerino's just developing, but on the bench, not too many great players. These days, if Tomiyasu comes on for Ben White, we're absolutely fine. If Kivio starts the left back, we're absolutely fine. So, but we're still linked to the left back, and I'm hearing that could be good.
I think we will sign a left back. And that means there's going to be a major departure at left back. It can't be Timber for me. I don't think it's going to be Timber. Tomiyasu has just signed a new deal, and that gives me the vibe of he will stay. So I'm looking at Zinchenko and I'm looking at Kivio, and I'm like, one of you is not going to be here next season. I don't know who, but Zinchenko has messed up a little bit somehow, like Aston Villa, and Kivio at times has messed up, maybe Bayern, right? And you look at the profile Mikel is targeting, a player who cuts across, a player with qualities that cut across. Gerald Hartso, centre back, that is replacement for Kivio, left back, that is replacement for Alexander Zinchenko. So I won't be surprised to see one of them leave, or even both of them.
Wow, both of them would be quite interesting. I think Kivio has had a better season, so he has the better chance of staying. So it's going to be an interesting one. Awesome. So that is the left back situation. We know that is linked to a new left back. We're hearing that could be one of the priorities, and it allows fullbacks. Like we've been linked to so many fullbacks over the years. We've been buying so many fullbacks. But another position is the number 10 role. Now, we all know Odegaard doesn't really have backup. Odegaard has to play every single game. He never has anyone to help him out. And Smith-Rowe and Vieira are 2 players who can play that position, but Smith-Rowe and Vieira have been linked with moves away. Now, what are your thoughts on Smith-Rowe? Between those two, who would you be willing to keep?
For his homegrown status, and because he has proven to me that he can do it, he's had a season where he's been Arsenal's best player, I would keep Emil Smith-Rowe. I think with Fabio Vieira, I like him. Like, he's one of the players I really like, not only at Arsenal, but also in the Premier League. I just like him because, when I think about players like Yussi Benayoun, when I think about players like Bernardo Silva, I think about Fabio Vieira. I know he is in that gem. I know he's in that, class of talent. We've just not seen it. Will we see it? I don't know. I mean, not every time do we see the best of a player. Look at Mario Götze's career went down the drain. But for me, one of the best young number 10s I've ever seen when Arsene Wenger was still there and we were still watching football. So I'm going to say this. Keep Emil Smith-Rowe. I would keep him. I would keep him. And I would, between the two. Yeah. But the realistic option is that Emil Smith-Rowe is more likely to leave than Fabio Vieira. I think with Fabio Vieira, he knows that he's got to prove a point, and he's got to prove to the manager that he's the player they signed from FC Porto. Secondly, when I look at Fabio Vieira's profile as a player, he's got more chances of playing in this Arsenal side than Emil Smith-Rowe. This is why. So think about Fabio Vieira in that Martin Odegaard role. Vieira doesn't press and doesn't work hard like Odegaard, but that can be coached, right? His creativity is sensational, absolutely sensational if you can unlock it. His ability to shoot from outside the penalty area with accuracy is sensational. He can play where Saka plays. He can play in that ex-Xhaka role that we have seen him occupy against Fulham. I think there was another game that he changed. Fulham and what? Crystal Palace? Was it Crystal Palace? At the beginning of the season.
I feel like it was Everton.
Exactly. Everton. So we know that he has quality to fit into this Arsenal side. We know that on top of his career, on his good day, he gets into this Arsenal team. Because there is a position for him. Now, Emile Smith-Rowe, on his good day, he gets into any team. The problem is that the way we set up, we do not have a dedicated a dedicated position and role for Emile Smith-Rowe. So you look at our wingers, because he loves to play on the left wing. But look at our wingers. We play with inverted wingers who literally hug the touchline and make the pitch as bigger as possible. That is not Emile Smith-Rowe. Then you think about the Granit Xhaka role and you think about the Odegaard role. That is not Emile Smith-Rowe. Like, he's a dribbler. He's I'm looking at him as like I don't know, Anthony Gordon, kind of an Anthony kind of guy, Garnacho, like he wants to be with the ball all the time, drive with the ball a lot of the time. And when you look at the guy that is playing in that role, Declan Rice, his qualities offensively and defensively, Emile Smith-Rowe is not a match to Declan Rice.
Oh yeah, you have to know how to defend in that position as well.
Exactly. You have to know how to defend exponentially very well. Is he a Martin Odegaard? No, his creativity is not to the levels of Martin Odegaard. He's actually a goal-scoring midfielder as compared to Odegaard, who can score and create a lot of chances. There is no Rowe.
There's no
Mikel is good at lying to us sometimes that these players, we are going to change 10 systems in one game. He's not doing it. So these players are not fools. They see it, right? So for me, Fabio Vieira stands a bigger chance. And I won't be surprised if we get to a season where Arsenal sign a striker and Fabio Vieira has had a better season than Odegaard, or has had a better season than Kai Havertz, because we know he can create. If there is a number 9 in front of him, he's created quality chances for Eddie Nketiah. Look at the chance he created for Eddie Nketiah in the 2-2 draw against Fulham. Yeah. That was beautiful. That was really, really beautiful. But also it caused the penalty in that game, because he's a little bit direct, and he's not afraid of getting into nice positions. So for me, I think it's Emile Smith-Rowe who's more likely to leave. And like many people, I would keep Emile Smith-Rowe because he's shown us what he can do. There is evidence of what he can do, but I think his head is in England in the national team, and he thinks time is going.
Yeah, I think, and I reacted to my predictions from early in the season, and one of my predictions was Fabio Vieira will be our surprise of the season. Now, he started the season very well, as you say. That Fulham game, he brought us back into the game that we were losing 1-0, I think, at the time. The game against Everton, I think, he started. He looked very good. There's another game where he scored another penalty. Even in pre-season against Man City, he scored a winning goal in the Community Shield. There was a goal he scored against Barcelona. He was looking really sharp, and I was like, this guy, we're starting to see the best of him. People are actually asking for him to start instead of Havertz in the number 8 role. But the thing is, number 8 role, you also have to defend. And we've had that time he's not training well, Fabio Vieira. And that position, there's a midfield that we started. When we lost 3-1 to West Ham in the Carabao Cup, you can't start with that midfield that we started with on that day. We had Jorginho, Vieira, and Havertz. That is suicidal. I think if you have a player like Vieira there, I think you kind of have to have someone like a Partey and Rice both of them. So that means Vieira
with Fabio Vieira, I look at how Moyes has set up West Ham this season with James Ward-Prowse and Thomas Soucek. James Ward-Prowse, Thomas Soucek, Edson Alvarez, and then Lucas Paqueta. So he can be the Lucas Paqueta. He's got 3 very good defensive players you can make him your creative outlet. I think he wants to be the icing on the cake. You see, Maddison, Tottenham play with maybe Bissouma and then Bentancur. Bentancur is an excellent ball winner, and Bissouma is an excellent ball winner as well. And then they could have maybe an Oliver Skip or Sa, in that midfield. So you can have your James Maddison, and Fabio Vieira can be your James Maddison, because they love that last pass. They want to dedicate their whole game at finding that last pass, and they're very good at finding it. But at Arsenal, we don't even have a dedicated number 9 for you to thread the balls through. So you're basically useless at the moment.
I feel like Smith Rowe and Vieira would be better in a 4-2-3-1, especially Vieira, not in a 4-3-3. So that will be interesting. So a couple of questions before we end it. I will be talking about the strikers and all that on Cossy's channel. Make sure to check that one out. The link for his channel is in the video title for this one. So do you want Smith Rowe to stay next season?
Keep him for one more season. I want him to stay.
Do you want Vieira to stay?
Keep him for one more season. I want him to stay.
Do you think Smith Rowe will be an Arsenal player next season?
He will be an Arsenal player next season. I'm 44%.
Could be alone. You never know. Could be a loan deal for one of them.
Okay. For him to be at Arsenal, actually, let me say this. I think Arsenal's valuation for Emile Smith Rowe will not be met by anyone in the market. So I think we are not going to get a proposal for 40 to 45 million. I think he stays.
Okay, and Vieira, do you think he'll be an Arsenal player next season?
I think he will go out on loan. I think it will be a loan deal. Yeah.
Interesting, because I feel like Odegaard plays a lot of games without any rest time. I've always felt like if there was someone to help him out, but the moment you take Odegaard out of that team, it's not even just about the chances created and the goals. The pressing, I don't think
the pressing, the ball progression, the leadership,
the combination play, everything.
Yeah, the combination, like we play with 2 forwards, and that is Odegaard and Kai. Like the moment you take off Odegaard, you've killed the whole team.
Yep, and Smith Rowe can do a little bit of pressing. I liked his pressing. I think it was against Luton where he got the ball.
Yeah, Luton,
got us that goal. But it's going to be interesting now to see who stays and who leaves. It's going to be a very interesting one this summer. So make sure to click on the title to check out the video we've done on Cossy's channel, or which will be out tonight. Make sure to subscribe. Yeah. Thank you for watching us. Know what you make about all that. We'll be back again tomorrow. Thank you for watching, and catch up with you guys on the next one.